Hello, stranger. Hey, hey, hey. Hello, hello, hello. Come on in. Get comfortable. Get your beverage, preferably some water. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my channel. It depends on who you are, but welcome to my channel. I'm Jaleesa, reading beyond the book cover. When we say reading beyond the book's cover, like I said, welcome if it's your first time, and welcome back if you're returning. I'm so glad to have you here because I am participating in the Horror Booktube Tag. I was tagged by Noah, a good bookish friend of mine. Noah's channel is called In Between the Lines, and this Booktube Tag is part of a collective effort of an event of sorts, a month-long event that's being hosted by him and Vin from Vin's Corner. I'm going to make sure I put his information down below as well. And I'm just really excited. It's a privilege, it's an honor to be recognized as far as somebody to tag. I don't know how my answers are going to hold up to everybody else's, but that's not the point of it all, right? The point of it all is just to share and to have a good time talking about horror-centric things, specifically books. But because I am a person that likes to taste everything, I like a sampler when I'm going out to eat. So I'm the same way when it comes to books, or not even just books, but just all entertainment. You know what, let me stop real quick. Let me apologize in advance for the noise. It is very hot here in Texas, okay? Very hot. Where I live at, hot. I have currently moved to a new place, so I'm getting used to the lighting as well as where I'm sitting. But when it comes to the sound, I'm not really sure how it's gonna sound depending on my volume. So I'm not trying to like stress my voice out, trying to talk over the air condition, but I refuse to be hot in my own home. So I do apologize in advance if that's all you hear is the air, but just know it's hot where I am and it's needed, it's necessary. But back to what I was saying, this is a booktube tag. It's called the Horror Booktube Tag. It's part of a month-long event, a bookish event called Don't Die July, which is being co-hosted by two bookish friends of mine, Vin as well as Noah. Noah is In Between the Lines and Vin is Vin's Corner. I will make sure that I put the information down below, and I'm gonna try to make sure that I answer these questions best as I possibly can, hopefully without stuttering so much, and also with a small amount of time. I don't want to have you all here forever. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So what? A little bit of your time. I'm gonna always say that. Not a lot, just a little, okay? Just give me a little bit. There are, let's see how many questions. 13 questions, and I already went on ahead and answered some of them already, or basically all of them, because I also want to post this up as a blog post. So thank you again, Noah, for tagging me. Like I said, it's a privilege. This is my first tag that I've actually been tagged in, so it's really exciting. It's a big deal to me, and I am so happy to participate, and I hope that other people participate as well. I hope that the people that I have tagged as well will jump in and give their answers or their responses to these questions, because horror is one of those things that not everybody enjoys, but I feel like they secretly want to be in on everything horror centric. I hope that makes sense. So like, for example, I have coworkers that I'll talk about horror movies with, and they're like, oh, I wish I could watch it, but you know, they have some kind of sensitivity to it, or they're not able to deal with the after effects of watching or reading something that's horror, so they rather experience it secondhand. So yeah, I feel like horror is like one of those genres that everybody wish they can get into. I'm gonna go on ahead before I lose track of time. I'm gonna go through and answer the questions. I have my iPad in front of me, so let's get into it. How and when did you get into horror? That's the first question. So you can go to my blog if you want more coherent thoughts, but I'm gonna just tell you now. I've always been into horror. I enjoy just the feeling of being afraid, but safe in my home at the same time, or safe wherever I'm watching something, as well, or reading something. I've always been into it. I do recall like my earliest memory being a TV as far as horror goes. The first movie that I do kind of remember being very afraid of is Hellraiser, and then after that it is the Child's Play series, and then Dolly Dearest. Anything with like moving dolls, I really have a hard time with, or did have a hard time with. Now it's kind of funny, but it still is kind of creepy, you know? So I've always been into horror, but when it comes to books, I wasn't into horror until I participated, I think, in my first book fair. So here they have the Scholastic Book Fair, and back in the 90s, they would send you home with this flyer, and you're able to go through and select the books that you want. And I know at that time, maybe the late 90s or mid 90s, all the children wanted the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books. So just be prepared. I will be talking about Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark quite a bit. It's going to come up most likely every single question, because that is a book that imprinted on me in a way that it introduced me to the feeling of being afraid, but also not necessarily like being scared, but not scared to the point that I can't function. I hope that makes sense. So it's a good time. Next question. What was the first horror book that you read? So like I said before, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is the start of it all. From what I can remember. I remember reading other books like Bunnicula, I think that's what it's called, or Vampire Bunny, something like that. It had but I don't remember the storyline behind that. So it didn't really make an impression on me quite like Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark was on a whole nother level. I remember when I was younger, everybody wanted that book. Like, you weren't the kid unless you had that book. And it took me time to get through it. I do remember pausing in between some of the stories because they were a little bit too scary for me. But even to this day, I still remember specific stories because that's how much of an impression they made on me. In particular, my favorite, as far as like, I can't believe it and I don't want it to happen, is the one about, I forgot his name, but it's about a scarecrow that comes to life. No. And then right after that is the girl who had like a spider that grew in her face. That's just, no. So I'm an adult now and still I feel creeped out by those stories. So yeah, of course I read, other books, like I said, the Bunnicula book and then Goosebumps, but the book that started it all is Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I think I read like 2 of them. I think there's 3 in all, but any of the books in the series, you're not going to be disappointed, okay? Next question. What horror-related goodness can we expect from your channel? Excuse me. Now, from time to time, what I'm thinking about doing is maybe sharing some TV shows and movies that I watch that are horror-related, whether it's horror thriller, social horror, horror suspense. I'm going to see if I can kind of work it around my current reading schedule, in the sense that I don't want it to be something that is like an outlier when I'm, talking about stuff, but I would like to share it more often because I do tend to watch a lot of movies and TV shows that a lot of people aren't watching. What I mean by that is if it's not mainstream. So I am watching what's on Freevee. I'm watching what is on, there's another channel where you can watch free stuff. I forgot. I'm watching things on Pluto. I'm watching stuff on Hulu. Well, everybody got Hulu for the most part. Crackle. So like I find different movies, and then most of the time they're low budget and they're not the best, but there was a concept there and I can see the potential that it has. So maybe I'll do that. As far as reading goes, I would like to try to read more independently published books. But right now, because of this year, how I'm basically overcommitted myself to so many arcs, I don't think I'll be able to do that this year, most likely next year, because I do want to focus more on horror because that's where I enjoy books the most. If it's horror or if it's thriller, I'm having a good old time. Now, sometimes historical fiction, I'm having a good time too, but when it comes to horror, that's at the top tier. Everything else follows afterwards. So I want to put it in the forefront. I think I'm too much of a mood reader that is why I haven't been focusing on it much. But hopefully I'll be able to incorporate it more often. I would like to do something that's along, what was that noise? Something along the lines of what excuse me, I'm stuttering. I would like to do something that is along the lines of something similar to what the Locked Booktition is doing. So what I mean by that is I want to seek out more books by people of color that are horror, mystery, thriller, and suspense. So I most likely will refer to her list that she has on her page. She has a YouTube channel. I know for sure she has a Google Drive document that has a list of books for different types of categories. So I may refer to that and then read some books from that list, because I don't feel that I read enough of horror in the sense of like exclusively, because I'm a is it herbivore? I think that's what it is. Or omnivore. Whichever is the one that eats meats and vegetables. I am that kind of person when it comes to reading. I'm reading all types of genres, but I'm pretty sure like if you were to do a graph of what I'm reading, or what I read primarily, it may not reflect that, but I would like to do more. And I also look forward to doing more activities like this. So like if Noah and Van were to do something else that is horror related, I would be more than thrilled to participate. But other than that, I'm not really sure, but we'll see. We're gonna play it by ear. Just watch, okay? Watch and wait. Next one. Oh, do you have any favorite themes or subgenres within the horror? So my favorite is social horror. Something about social horror is just, it gets under my skin, but in a good way, because there's so much commentary that can be said about what's happening in the book or a TV show or in the movie. I've read a couple of social horror books, couple in the sense of very few in the last couple of years, but they were books that had me thinking afterwards. But I think the one that's mostly well done to me, in my opinion, which I recently read, it's called Burn Down, Rise Up, and it's a social horror book. It's a YA book, and it talks about the Bronx burnings or the Bronx fires that happened in the 1970s. So it's scary just thinking how like a house, or not a house, but like an apartment building can have all these tenants and their lives don't mean much to the person who owns it, and it means so less, is that the word? Yeah, so much less that the tenants are suffering at the hands of these landlords and the slumlords. It's just messed up. Like that kind of stuff that scares me, because I know it could possibly happen still to this day to other people. One movie or TV show, I'm sorry, that I really enjoyed that was a social horror is Lovecraft Country. If you have not seen Lovecraft Country, you need to go and watch Lovecraft Country. There's only one season. The TV show can be a little bit intense. I know there was a couple of scenes where I was like covering my eyes, because the older I get, the more sensitive I get to stuff like that. But it talks about racism. It talks about generational wealth. It talks about, inheritance. It talks about injustice, social injustice. Why is it so hard to say? Racial injustice. It talks about so many different topics, but while still making you afraid at the same time. So it's like relevant, and just watch it, okay? I'm so sorry. I know I got off topic, sort of, kind of, but not really. But I enjoy social horror, and I also like anything that has to do with the occult. So if you have witches, hoodoo, voodoo, some kind of, mumbo jumbo's going on, I'm there for it. Sign me up. I want to read about it. I don't know why I find it so fascinating. Take it back. I think I know. Like, growing up Christian, of course, that's like the majority religion. I'm trying to figure out how to say it. Like, it's the religion that a majority of people are practicing. You don't hear much about the other religions. So that's why I'm always interested in reading books from that viewpoint, as far as what are the practices, what are the expectations, what are the traditions. It's something different. Like, you're growing up hearing about the Bible. The Bible has different stories, metaphors, blah, blah, blah. But you don't learn about anything outside of that, especially when you're in a Christian household. So from a young age, I've always sought out books that had witches, or TV shows and movies that had witches. And now that I'm older, I'm also dipping my toe into movies, books, TV shows that are about hoodoo and voodoo. In particular, my favorite season of American Horror Story is the Coven one. Hands down. The best right next to the Insane Asylum. That one was good too. So yeah, I really enjoy anything that has to do with the occult, and I also like social horror. So hopefully that answered your question, because I don't be going all around the world. Question number 5, an underrated horror novel or author. I'm not sure about this one, so I'm going to say anyone that's not Stephen King is underrated. And then that kind of segues into our next question, which is next question. Name an overrated horror novel or author. So I think Stephen King, he's kind of overrated in the sense that I think people assume that all of his books are going to be top tier, best books ever. And it's like, no, everybody has a bad book. Okay. And I'm not saying his books are bad. I enjoy his writing. I read it. I read The Outsiders. Is it Outsiders? No, The Outsider. I read what is the one? I'm having a blank right now. The one with the hotel. I read that one, The Shining. That's what it is. I read The Shining. I'm trying to think what else. I read some of his most recent ones, like The Institute. I think I read something else. So I read several books from him. He has really good writing. I watched movies that were adapted from his books. Really good. But like Noah said in this video, like, he has such a huge umbrella. Why not do something else with that kind of power, in the sense that instead of writing another book, which is like, I understand it's his job, he writes a book. Writes books. I feel that he should do something similar if he hasn't done already. So forgive me if I'm just ignorant to the fact that he does this already. But I would like for him to have like some kind of publishing imprint where he's supporting authors, up and coming horror authors, and help them to, to perfect their craft and to help support them and uplift them. That would be nice. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see another book. But hey, do you boo. But it'll be nice. So if anybody knows him, put that little word in his ear and see what he does with it, because it would be really nice to see, okay, well, this is Stephen King's protege. What can he do with a person? Because we've seen what he can do with a book. We've seen what he can do with a story. What can he do with a person? So that'll be nice. Number 7, recommend 3 of your favorite horror novels. So I have 3 and a bonus. So the first one is Bones and All by Camille DeAngelis, My Soul to Keep by Tananarive Due, The Spite House by Johnny Compton. So those books all span different years. Johnny Compton's book came out this year, 2023. My Soul to Keep, I think it came out in the early 2000s, and I'm not sure about Bones and All, but I'm going to make sure that I put the details down below, and then I'm also going to put a picture of each of the books right now. So again, that's Bones and All by Camille DeAngelis, and I'm pretty sure they made a movie for that as well, or a TV show, something like that, on Netflix. My Soul to Keep by Tananarive Due, The Spite House by Johnny Compton, and my bonus is any of the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books. So those are my books that I recommend that are my favorite horror novels. Next question. Recommend a book for someone new to the horror genre. I'm going to suggest it again. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Okay? It's best. It's the GOAT. It's the greatest of all time. I think that if anybody wants to get introduced to it, they can actually skip around to different stories to see, okay, what kind of story fits with me? Do I like gore? Do I like something that plays with my senses? Do I like something that starts off nice but like slowly turns into this craze? Like, I think it has so much variety when it comes to the stories that it's the perfect book for somebody to get an idea of what kind of horror they like if they've never read horror before. Am I saying that all of it is tame? No, but I feel that because there are so many stories in the collection of books, you can't go wrong. Next one. Recommend a book for, are there any book to film adaptations that you particularly loved or hated? I did not like the adaptation for Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I feel like I said that more than once, but I really did not like that movie. I feel like it was a poor representation of the book. Poor representation in the sense that it wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. The reading it was more scary and more visceral to me than watching the TV show. Not TV show, I'm sorry, the movie. The movie, I fell asleep 3 times. So I tried. I give it the good old college try. I'm not doing it again. But book that I love. Now, I haven't read the book yet, but the TV show, I have watched it and I've already said I love it. Lovecraft Country. Please, I'm begging you, please watch Lovecraft Country. It's such a good show. I I may rewatch it. No, take it back, I can't. If I had HBO now, because we don't have it anymore, I would watch it. Oh, let me correct myself. It's not HBO. It's called Max. If I had Max now, I would watch it again. But it's such a good show. I do plan on reading the book. I think there's a number 2. I'm not really sure. Or maybe there's another book that came out from the author. I'm going to have to like correct myself later. But doesn't matter. Lovecraft Country, love it. I have a feeling that if the book is as close to what the TV show was like, I'm going to love it. Again, what I hated, Scary Stories Told in the Dark, the movie, boo-boo. Boo, tomato, tomato, tomato. Throw it all because I didn't like it. Next one. How do you discover new or new to you horror books? So most of the time when it comes to horror books, I find them on all the social media platforms. But if I'm not watching YouTube videos that mention them or see it on Instagram, then I usually will see it on Twitter. If not Twitter, now since I am more frequent on NetGalley, which is the place where I get my ARCs or my advanced reader copies, I tend to go there and go through and I'm able to see what new horror books are coming out. So yeah, go on NetGalley. They have a lot there, okay? If you are looking for a specific genre of books that are coming out pretty soon, NetGalley is your best friend. I don't feel that Goodreads or maybe even Storygraph, I'll have to test it out. I don't think they have the capability of really showing me the most accurate categorization of books sometimes. And I don't know if it's being categorized by the actual author, the publisher, or by the general public. So most of the time, if I'm getting any kind of information from any kind of source, it's most likely going to be NetGalley, because the publishers send the book directly there. But yeah, that's that on that. I get recommendations from everywhere. What was the last horror book that you bought? It's been a while since I bought a book, let alone a horror one. So what I'm going to say, if I remember correctly, I did purchase Pet Sematary because it was on sale at Kroger. So next question. What horror book is at the top of your wish list? The book that I have on my wish list is Our Share of Night by Mariana Enriquez, and it's a translated work. One, I have a love of big books. I know it's weird. I love big books, but at the same time, I don't read a lot of big books, so it's like I like the appearance of big books. But that book is very big, but it's very beautiful. I love how striking the cover is with the nails. I think it's coming across the page. I'll put the picture up here, just so you can see. But yes, I want that book. And the last one, tag some people. So I'm going to tag 2 people in particular that I've had some back and forth correspondence with here on YouTube, and hopefully they participate. Fingers crossed. So that'll be Sparkle Pink and Blue and Stephanie C. Thoughts et al. A Latte Thoughts. I remember that. Okay, so the channel's name is A Latte Thoughts, but her username is Stephanie C. Thoughts. And Sparkle Pink and Blue. Let me check so I can make sure I have it. See, there it goes. There it goes. There it goes. It's making noise like it usually do. Okay, it's just Sparkle Pink and Blue. So Sparkle Pink and Blue and Stephanie C. Thoughts. So I tag you all. Hopefully you all have a good time with this. Share your horror books, horror thoughts. And until next time, I want you to drink your water, mind the business that's yours, and continue reading beyond the book's cover. Bye.